I'm gonna rank every single Pokemon movie today. That's 24 movies in total, which is a lot of movies. And I watched them all for this video, and because I genuinely like Pokemon. But you know, for the video. Almost everybody that watches this channel is unsubscribed. Drop a subscribe and let's get into the video. Pokemon, the first movie. If I didn't give it S tier, I'd be insane. It's great from start to finish. There's enjoyable moments, there's sad moments, there's fighting, there's the mail carrier Dragonite, which is like iconic. The real Pokemon and fake Pokemon war is amazing. Mew versus Mewtwo. I would probably still tear up watching this movie. It's a great encapsulation of the series and the first generation. Almost every Pokemon in the entire first generation is in this movie. I really don't think that I could give it not S tier. Next we have Pokemon the Film 2000, and this is another really good one. This one focuses more on the legendaries as it brings in the birds, Lugia. This even makes Slowking look cool. This brings in our first enemy in the movies that is not a Pokemon. You know, in the first one you have Mewtwo being the enemy, but now you have humans catching the legendary birds and trapping them like a prison. It's really bad. The story is great in this one. There's great action. I love Gen 2. I think that I have to give it A tier. It's a really good movie all in all. I think the focus on the legendaries is great because we didn't really have that as much in the first one except for like Mew and Mewtwo. You know, we kind of just skipped over Zapdos and the birds in general. A tier is good, man. A tier is good. Next we have Pokemon the movie 3, the one with Entei, Unknown. Entei freezes over the world in crystal and it's just a magical world. This one's more like dreamlike than every other movie. This one feels not real. I mean, from the start, you know, everything feels so surreal in the Pokemon world. And I'm gonna put this one to S. I think this movie is incredible. It was so different from all the other movies, you know? The first two had like clear focuses on something, right? The first one was Mewtwo and dominating the world as cloning the Pokemon and everything. And then the second one is saving the legendaries. Well, this one is kind of just different from all of them. It's really just the dreams of this little girl being brought to life by the spell of the unknown. There's not really a set villain or anything. They're kind of just figuring out the mystery of what's going on. I loved seeing the world through the little girl's eyes where she would just want something to happen and it does because, you know, she has an Entei. It makes you really want to look into like, you know, the ancient legendary Pokemon and everything. I think this did a really good job at portraying how crazy the world can be. Next, we got Pokemon Forever. I think Pokemon Forever is my second favorite movie of these Pokemon movies. This one is so good. You have Celebi, which is an incredibly cool Pokemon. Entei and Lugia and the birds were all easily attainable, so they were Pokemon that I loved to see in a movie because I had them in the game. But Celebi was not the case. I didn't get to get the mystery gift version of this Pokemon where you could catch in the Ilex Forest until I was like 20. When I had Crystal on the 3DS. The world feels really dangerous in this movie, right? You bring attention to the poachers, the bad people in the world, not just Team Rocket. Well, I think the poacher is Team Rocket, but either way, you bring attention to the bad people of the world that do evil things and not in not really that scary ways like regular Team Rocket, Jesse and James. They're kind of cartoony and don't really do anything evil. But this guy is like the epitome of evil in Pokemon. He has balls. He has evil balls. Dark balls. He has dark balls that catch a Pokemon and make it instantly max level, but make it a dark Pokemon. Kind of like a shadow Pokemon in the XD Gale of Darkness game. Like this Tyranitar literally felt evil. This character felt evil. I just think they did a really good job at making the villain like actually menacing. And he caught the Celebi at one point and turned it into a forest monster kaiju that was actually scary. I mean, this thing was actually nightmare fuel. Like the CGI. I watched this movie again like a year ago when I made the old Pokemon movies video, which you should check out, by the way. And this stands among the best of the Pokemon movies. There is one that I like more than this. This is my second favorite Pokemon movie. There is one that tops this one. Pokemon Heroes is another really good one, but I am going to give this B. I think this movie is great, but it's definitely one of the weaker links of these strong movies, the early movies in the franchise. It's a really enjoyable movie, and it shines light on Pokemon like Latias and Latios, which don't really have any light in the game because they're not really easily obtainable. I think you don't get them actually in the base game. You had to get like the Eon Pass or something weird. It was something weird. It was once again a mystery gift because they're legendaries, but they're not the main, box legendaries or anything like that. The movie does a great depiction of making them really interesting. They can become invisible. They fly around really fast. They can turn into real human. They can just like transform into this little girl. They show off some things that give the world more life, right? They start off with the race. It's like a leisurely activity that the gang does that isn't just battling. And that just gives the world more life. I liked like the spy villains, the two spy girls. I thought they were really cool when I was a kid. You know, I thought they were like badass female antagonists, something we don't really get that frequently. It's definitely weaker than all the movies that I put in S and A so far, so we're gonna give it B, but it's a really good movie. Next, we have Jirachi Wishmaker, which is actually my favorite one. You guessed it. It's number 1. It's my favorite one. It hits the top of S. The world is painted so well in this movie. Going back to Jirachi's hometown of, I forget what it's called, but that huge, beautiful, lush canyons and forests with all those interesting Pokemon. You have Flygon, Wild, Tropius, Swablu, Altaria. Like, this movie does a lot of things really well, and the world is not the only thing. You also have the evil villain is so cool. The butler. The guy is not the coolest thing in the world, but I think his goal is amazing, trying to recreate the strongest Pokemon of all time, Groudon, which I actually think is one of the strongest Pokemon of all time. Groudon's like just a menace. Groudon just feels like one of the scariest Pokemon, right? Like, what even is this guy? He's just a giant lava plume monster. And how they do it in this, they make a false Groudon. It's not even actually Groudon. It's like a scarier Groudon that has these weird powers of creating tentacles that can suck you up. Wish I was there, right? Yeah, it felt dangerous. Like, this was one of the movies that felt so dangerous in these top 3 movies. The Jirachi Wishmaker, Forever, in the first movie. In a lot of these other movies, the world doesn't feel dangerous, and that's okay. The world doesn't have to feel dangerous because it's a rated TV Y7 Pokemon movie. It's literally made for kids. It doesn't have to be dangerous. There doesn't have to be a chance that these characters die. In fact, that would almost be off-putting to kids. But this Groudon, this false Groudon, felt scary. I mean, it literally felt dangerous. It felt like our characters could actually die, which was crazy. But I just think everything about this movie is so good, dude. Not only like the villain, the false Groudon, the world, even just the opening scene, the construction of the carnival was so cool. It felt like I want to be a part of the Pokemon world, and that's all I wanted. And when I was a kid, seeing movies like this, that's all I wanted. And I was like, damn, I'm gonna just turn into an adult that pays taxes. Watching this movie makes me feel like a kid still. I literally watched this movie like a year ago, and I'll watch it again right now, dude. This movie is so good. Next, we got Destiny Deoxys. Rayquaza is a badass sky-flying dragon that can fly through space, and Deoxys is like an alien. Also, I really like the characters and the character development that is created in this movie. Also, I really enjoy the world. Once again, all this amazing technological advancements that they have in that world. Yeah, this is just a really good movie all around. It deserves A tier. Next is Pokemon Ranger Temple of the Sea. This is the Manaphy movie. This one's a really interesting one. Once again, we get to explore the world in a new way. We had like the technologically advanced world of Deoxys. We had like the forest areas of the world in Celebi. The Jirachi. We had like the lush, beautiful mountainscapes of canyons and forests and everything. And then in the Temple of Sea, we get to see under the water, and we get to see the ocean, this new world that we haven't really explored yet in the movies or anime or anything. Also, Manaphy is just like the most adorable legendary Pokemon, mythical Pokemon of all time. It literally says, I love you. Why'd you gotta say that? I was also a big fan of the Pokemon Ranger games, like when I was a kid. When it first came out, I really liked the first one. It's an interesting new breath of fresh air. I'm gonna put it in B, even though I just like talked it up so much, but it's not better than any of the ones I put up here in A. I think all these movies are fantastic. I love these movies too, but it doesn't quite have that same place in my heart. Next, we got Pokemon Lucario and the Mystery Mew. It explores a new segment of the world tree, which is something that's explored in basically every anime and manga that I've ever seen. It's in Hunter x Hunter, it's in God of War. It fights against the people that are in it, the organic humans that are not just plants and life-based like Pokemon. Lucario, it's kind of weird that Lucario is like the face of this movie, but it makes sense. Lucario is like a fan favorite Pokemon, one of the top Pokemon like in the fan rated, the polls and stuff. I mean, it's a Smash character for God's sake. Like, it is everywhere, and it being a poster boy of a movie is perfectly fine with me. Now, I do love Mew being in this movie as well, but it kind of feels like out of place. I don't know. I like this movie. I'm gonna put it in B. Once again, you know, I mean, as I said, we are gonna probably see this happen where as we go through the gens, they're just gonna be lower tiered. And it is partially because I was older when I watched the movies and it wasn't as magical, but it's also like, I mean, you already did so much. It's really hard to, you know, not just do the same thing. It's really hard to recreate more stuff. Like I said, there are some late movies that are really high up on this list. We still have an S tier movie here. We still have an S tier movie, and we're out of Gen 3. The Darkrai movie is definitely the best one out of Gen 4, I think. I'm gonna put it right above Lucario. It's actually a really good movie. I liked it a lot. Darkrai is a menacing bad guy. It's the nightmare Pokemon. It's like Gengar on crack. Like, this dude is nuts. The world is actually dangerous once again. We haven't had that in a little while, right? We haven't had that since the Jirachi movie. All these other movies haven't really felt that dangerous, haven't felt that scary, but this one does. They like closed the whole city off in a nightmare realm, making the worst nightmares come to life. Like the one character that was obsessed with his looks turned into a licky. Yeah, I don't know. This was a good one. I want to give it high B tier. I actually kind of want to put it past Temple of Sea, but I really like the Temple of the Sea. So it's right here. Next, we have the Giratina movie. I only really like the reverse world or the distortion realm. I think that's the coolest part of the entire like Giratina arc, like the entirety of that Pokemon. I think Platinum did it really well. I loved Platinum because of the reverse world. But I don't think the movie did it that much justice. It didn't really feel that scary or dangerous when this is supposed to be the scariest and most threatening Pokemon ever. And Darkrai was kind of like scarier than this guy. All that being said, I still think like, you know, I would probably put it here. Also, I don't really like Shaman. I'm just not a big fan of Shaman. I would put it here, but the reverse world brings it right to here. The Arceus movie. I like the jumping around in time, but we already did that in the Celebi movie, and we did it a lot better, in my opinion. I think the Arceus movies are right because I do like, you know, the betrayal against Arceus, the mystery of figuring out why the guy betrayed Arceus and all that kind of stuff. I think maybe I'm rating this too hard. I did expect this movie to be like crazy and Arceus to be crazy, badass, like just this nuts, crazy, godlike presence. But he got beaten by some silver water in like 30 electric bolts. I don't know, man. It didn't do Arceus justice. It's kind of like the Giratina movie. I felt like it's such a cool and awesome Pokemon, and they just didn't do it any justice at all. Next, we have the Zoroark movie. And this is interesting because it's the only movie that focuses on one Pokemon only, and it's not a legendary or a mythic. I know the Lucario movie, but it's called Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. Now, don't get me wrong, Zoroark is really cool. I love that it can, you know, transform into other things and people. And one time, like, it changes into Ash, and it takes, like, the form of Ash. But it's pretty generic Pokemon movie, to be honest. Sorry, Zoroark fans. I know there's a lot of Zoroark fans out there, but this movie just doesn't really spark that much to me. Also, I think this is right around the era of when I stopped watching these movies like live on Cartoon Network. Yeah, I watched this when I was like 22. Zoroark's really cool and I love his transforming stuff, so I'm gonna give him C tier. Next, we have Black and White, and this movie is pretty forgettable. The Victini, I like Victina. Zekrom and Reshiram are really forgettable. I love Black and White. Those are some of the best games of the Pokemon, the entire Pokemon series. They're some of the harder ones. But this is not about the games. This is about the movie. And this one just didn't spark any joy. Also, I had to watch it twice because for some reason they made Pokemon Black and Pokemon White separate movies with the exact same story, and just like little things changed, like the fact that one is Zekrom and one's Reshiram. It just felt like uninspired, and like, why do I have to watch this twice? I watched it twice. Wish I didn't. The Kyurem movie was a little bit better. I'm going to put it in C tier because I do like Kyurem. Did a really good job at making him actually a menacing Pokemon and like a good, strong dragon type. I mean, at one point they said that he was the strongest dragon of all time. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely up there. I don't really like Keldeo or any of the Swords of Justice, to be honest. Like, I don't think any of them are really that cool. Like, the reason this movie is propelled past D tier is Kyurem alone. If this was, you know, one of the earlier movies, like Gen 1, 2, or 3, they would have done a lot more. They would have made it a lot scarier. And nowadays, like, maybe I'm just not a little kid anymore. Like, yes, that is definitely true. I'm not a little kid anymore. But I still watch the old movies and feel the same way. I watched this movie and just felt like, I don't know, kind of bad. Next, we got the Genesect and Mega Mewtwo, and Mega Mewtwo is also a Pokemon that's going to bring this up to C tier from D tier. Genesect is okay. I don't really like it. I don't love it, but it's okay. I like the Mega Mewtwo versus the Genesect was pretty cool, and like the Horde of Genesect. Not that memorable of a movie, and I watched it a year ago. I don't really remember much about this movie because, I don't know, it kind of just like made me feel like I don't really care about the movie, so I don't know. Not that great. So we have the Diane movie. And this is another one that just doesn't really spark much joy. I'm going to put it in D. The Yveltal scene brings it up to the top of the little lake that was tainted with negative energy and awoke the Yveltal. That scene almost puts it in C. All right, that scene puts it in C. But the rest of it was like, I don't know. I did kind of like the Diancie in Carbink world and their dynamic in general where, you know, if you're a Carbink and then you see a Diancie, It's the same Pokemon, but it's got like some crystals on its head and it's like taller. All right, we'll worship you as our princess, I guess. Yeah, C. For Diane, C. Volcanion and Magearna. This one will go to D. But yeah, the Volcanion movie was okay. I did like Volcanion and Ash's dynamic stuck together with like super future handcuffs. Volcanion hates every human. Ash loves every Pokemon. I didn't really like Magearna, and I didn't really like any of the side characters. And honestly, this generation in general, I was completely out of watching. So I didn't really have any big attachments to anything or any of the characters or anything. So D tier. Here we are. The last S tier movie, Hoopa Clash of Ages. I think this movie is actually phenomenal. It was really enjoyable. It was like Smash Ultimate or the One Piece Stampede. Every character was there. Every single legendary Pokemon was in this. Hoopa's like this crazy little mischievous dude that can turn into this big monster that can also teleport anybody anywhere. I actually really like Hoopa. I never saw Hoopa in anything before. Like, it was a mythical that I didn't have access to in the games. This gave me like a newfound love for Hoopa. I actually like Hoopa a lot. I like both of its forms as the big genie badass guy that can, transport legendaries everywhere, and the little one that just like, takes somebody's apple or something. He's funny. Also, I really like the legendary battles where we get to bring all of them back. There's Kyogre, there's Groudon, there's Rayquaza, there's Lugia, there's all of these really cool legendary Pokemon in this movie. Opening scene was just like a bunch of legendary Pokemon just battling. Clash of Ages, man. It's a good movie. Next, we have I Choose You, and this is going to go to the top of B. It kind of like rewrites the beginning of the series, which is good and bad. The same storyline for like 2 minutes, and then it switches over, which is okay because I didn't really want to just see, the first 3 episodes reanimated. This is like the first 3 episodes, but with more legendaries. I kind of want to rewatch this movie actually because I haven't seen it since I saw it in theaters, which was like, 2016, 2017? It's been a while. Detective Pikachu is another Pokemon movie that I'm going to put in B that's new, but I thought it was really good. I think it painted a good picture of how the world would be if it were real, right? Underground dogfights with Pokemon. I think it just like looked like how civilization would be with Pokemon. It also did a good job at making these Pokemon actually seem dangerous. Charizard was scary. Mewtwo would actually take over the world. Yeah, this movie's really good. Also great voice acting, and just like it looked a lot better than I thought it was going to in general. I was like scared that it was going to look like just terrible, and it looked pretty good. Next was Power of Us, and this one was not very memorable, to be honest. I'm gonna just put in D. I don't remember like anything about this movie. This is another one I saw in theaters, and I just don't really remember anything about the movie, to be honest. Like, I actually brought this movie up to my brother the other day because we saw it in theaters together, and he said that he fell asleep and never like rewatched it. Yeah, not great movie. I don't know, maybe my recollection is just bad in like it was a good movie, but I don't know. Anyway, next we have Mewtwo Strikes Back, and this is the worst one, dude. Why did you have to remake such an amazing movie and just make it look bad? And try to be like a one-to-one copy of a movie that was great, but make it look terrible. I'm sad that this even came out and that I dedicated an hour and a half to watching it. Honestly, I would recommend against ever watching this. Next we have Secrets of the Jungle, and this is a movie that I was actually pleasantly surprised in watching. I want to give it B tier. I'm going to put it right there in B tier, although it is admittedly worse than all of these B tiers. Fine, we'll give it C tier, but we'll put it at the very top of C tier. I thought this was an enjoyable movie, and it's one that I would actually recommend to watch. I think it was good. Once again, I really liked Ash and the main movie character. It's dynamic. It's kind of like similar to the Destiny Deoxys one, where the guy, instead of not liking Pokemon, he loves them, but like in a different way because he like thinks he's a Pokemon and doesn't know how to interact with the world around him, and Ash is showing him how to do that, and I thought that was good. I didn't like the enemy, but I liked that I hated the enemy. I really was rooting against them, and I think they did a good job at doing that. And getting to see like the world that Zarude lives in and like the way that it interacts, like it's actually, a really cool Pokemon, and getting to see like the elders and stuff. It made me kind of think of like that Trico episode where Trico had to like negotiate to leave with Ash. That's kind of how the Zarude was. Not that like they negotiated to leave with Ash, but that's just like the colony of them kind of reminded me of that Trico episode. I don't know. Anyway, that's about it. Jirachi and Celebi are the best two because they make such menacing enemies, and the world is actually dangerous, and I love that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more content like this. I've done this for a bunch of other series and stuff like that. I definitely recommend you watch the old Pokemon movies video on my channel. It's not very long. It's like 5 or 6 minutes. Subscribe.